Are you too frustrated with your monotonous everyday life? From the very beginning, I've always made a statement. Not everyone appreciated that, but I wasn't for everyone. There was some abuse and insults, of course, but I like to say that normal is the cruelest insult of them all. And at least I never got that. And I couldn't agree more. Playing small and hiding is not an option anymore.
You know what? You don't hate yourself. You hate you for not being yourself. Your most authentic, true self that is as cringe as it can be. And on that matter, I found a quote that I really love by James McCrae. Cringe is over. From now on, we are oversharing our most insane thoughts and accepting each other despite our mutual weirdness and imperfection. And I looked at the comments below that quote, and they were also pretty interesting. Being considered weird by those who are still victim of cultural programming is actually a compliment. Cringe was always authenticity shrouded in judgment. But when people are trying too hard to be something they're not, cringe. First, for those who don't know what cringe means. Cringe, it's like the motion of in German. There is actually a really good word that fits to cringe, and that is Fremdschämen. That means being embarrassed, but for somebody else. For example, when you watch somebody who is very overweight, wearing a jiggly-puff shirt and just dancing his soul out. Some people might think, OMG, I can't look, that's horrible. Or when you are watching a movie and something stupid is happening, the main character does something that from the outside looks so stupid and you think, oh my gosh, I can't look, that's so embarrassing what he or she is doing. Then you are cringing. And I have the feeling that especially the last decade or so, this idea of cringing at people, probably with the spread of TikTok and so on the one hand became popular, and on the other hand is a kind of liberation. The quotes that I just shared, the last quote that I just shared. But when somebody is trying too hard to be someone they are not, that's cringe. But what the person is actually telling is that they are judging someone for whatever the person is doing, so they are a judgmental person. And this idea of somebody does something and they are cringe is actually you judging somebody else for what they are doing. And why am I talking about that topic? Well, on one hand, I could be considered cringe because I like pink and I like anime and I like Sailor Moon. I transform to magical Marty and am my magical girl fairy self when I want to. And I know that there are people who might think that's cringe, and that's okay. Because the cringe people, the weird people, are often the coolest ones. You know, I realized that in anime culture there is actually a perfect term for cringiness. The quote by David McCrae that cringe is past and that we should overshare whatever we want, our most quirkiest and weirdest things, because that is the true connection. That for me is the reason for that channel, and that for me is also every day a new challenge. Like, how can I be really honest with myself? Not judge myself for the embarrassing things that I want to do, that I am thinking, that I am feeling. When I think back to my school days, there is actually a time where I, on the one hand, was not really authentic because it was puberty and you wanted to try out to be different ways. But on the other hand, I was my most authentic self because I felt very safe in the school environment. And in anime manga world, there is a beautiful word for that time, which is chunibyo. Chunibyo means something like 8th grader syndrome. And it refers, at least in many anime, to, you probably know those characters, like who are in high school, maybe in 8th grade or whatever grade, and they think they are someone special. They think they have, for example, the evil eye and can shoot laser beams. They think they stem from a ninja clan, or they even kill themselves because they know they are so special that they will be reincarnated in a new world. Chunibyo. And I was fully in Chunibyo mode, I think since 9th grade to now. And there were specific moments that I remember which could be considered cringy from others. For example, I loved Final Fantasy and I loved wearing special outfits to school. And especially I loved Riku. So I do love Final Fantasy VII, but the outfits in Final Fantasy X are much more interesting, I guess. And Riku had one outfit where, was it 10 or 10-2? I think it was the 10-2 one actually, with the yellow bikini and the long scarf. And I put together clothes that looked like that and went to school. I didn't go in a yellow bikini, but I wore it underneath my yellow top. And yes, the miniskirt, the scarf. I wore, I think, one fingerless glove, and so on and so forth. And there was a guy just asking me, why are you wearing one glove? It's summer, it's warm. And I just responded, it's my style. Da. And I felt so good wearing Riku's clothes. And another phase was when I wished that we had school uniforms. The Japanese, seirafuku, ideally. And I also loved other school uniforms. So one time I found beautiful cloth on the flea market, I think, and I bought it. And although I had no idea of sewing or anything, I tried to sew a skirt and there was leftover cloth. So I tried to sew ribbons that I put onto my shoes. So I wore a little shabby, but in my eyes, most beautiful school uniform to school. In a school like in Germany, we don't wear school uniforms. That too could have been considered cringe. And I have no idea what some other people talked behind my back, but I didn't care because I really felt that I could just live my quirkiest, weirdest ways. I had friends that accepted me for who I was. And I just felt so good. So that person who said, but when someone is trying too hard to be who they are not, that's cringe. Maybe that someone was programmed for such a long time to be a normie, to be a little robot wearing a suit or wearing jeans and pullover, behaving the way that everybody does, saying things, liking things that everybody likes, having 1.4 kids, 2 dogs, a house, a car, or whatever is the statistical standard. But deep down, they hated themselves for not being themselves. So how can you judge somebody else when they try to peel those onion layers of cultural programming off by trying something new, which might feel a little uncomfortable at times or maybe not authentic to those who know the programmed robot? How can you judge such a person for being cringe? I mean, aren't you the judging one? Cringe? And I am aware that in that moment I too am judging somebody for judging somebody, which is also cringe. And still, I prefer the weirdos. I prefer those who break free from all the standards that are expected of them. And even though it might feel like acting, they try something new. They try to be a new person. And that is the work. Because the first years of your life are the ones that shape the rest of your life. The first 6 or 7 years after you are born, you are like a sponge. You are like a little SpongeBob taking on everything that is around you. You only observe, like you are like a video camera, you know, you only observe what is happening all around you. You see how your parents talk, how they dress, how they behave. You watch maybe TV. You see how your teachers talk, what they are telling you, how everybody else around you is looking. And you don't only listen to what you are being told, but you record everything, every argument between your parents, every small, but what would the neighbors think if you go out there looking the way you do? You record everything. And that is who you are when you actually start school, or when you are turn 6, 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. Then you recorded everything and are actually in a shape that is culturally, societally programmed. And that is really interesting when you combine it with Chunibyo, so with the 8th grader thinking of yourself as being someone special syndrome. Of course, that's a puberty thing as well. But what if some people feel that the programming they received doesn't feel that right, and there is something within them that they want to try out and be? And all those anime that often have high schoolers as their main characters actually display that in a very beautiful way. Why are the high schoolers the ones that become Sailor Senshi, that are hit by Truck-kun and took into another world? Why are those often in that age where maybe a slight, small identity crisis might come up, where those questions arise of, what shall I do after school? What should I work? I mean, is that my purpose, that I finish school and then get a job? I want to travel the world, or I want to become an actor, or I want to sing or dance or do whatever I want. But most of us don't. Most of us go to university or find another job and just follow the, you know, the normie route. Until maybe later a second identity crisis arises where you ask, is that it? Is this it? Is that the reason why I'm here? And that might actually be the time for a second Chunibyo. Don't be Chunibyo then, but you know, that might be the time where you become the Jigglypuff dancer, or where you dress yourself, I don't know, like the most magical fairy, unicorn, spiritual, whoever, whatever is within you, where you, as a guy, want to wear makeup because you like glittery things. And I have millions of examples. And how can someone who still is within societal expectations consider that to be cringe? So, is there something within you that you maybe want to just try out? Maybe shooting videos or doing a TikTok dance, or maybe you'd like to tell the girl next door that you love her, or anything that where you feel scared, that's out of your comfort zone, or where you tell yourself, I'm too old, I can't do that, that's not for me anymore, I can't wear that, that's so embarrassing, that's cringe, I don't have the body for that, or whatever. Any kind of thing where you have this small spark, but you put a lid on it and press it down. The reason why most people don't do such a thing, especially when they are adults, is this: what would the neighbors think? What would my colleagues think if I uploaded a video of me playing the guitar? What will my husband think if I suddenly dyed my hair purple? And so on. And you know, the saddest thing is, you heard that in your childhood from your mother or your father. Don't go out wearing that. What will the neighbors think? Their parents heard that from their parents. Their parents heard it from their grandparents. And you know what generation that was? Think about it, how their life circumstances were. And what's even crazier is that the neighbors also tell themselves, what would the neighbors think? I can't go out and do my thing. So nobody goes out and nobody does their thing. And if somebody does, they are considered cringe. So let's be cringe.